Well, that is solid.
Air come through the bottom. Here's your solid. Right. Line. Go there.
It's right here on the front. Is it this one?
I'm trying to solving
The one that don't have paint in it, ain't covered by paint.
It's covered in fucking paint. Wrong thing. Alright, here's your push.
Which one?
Here, it comes from here.
It looked like you might be moving this one, but I can't. That looks
It
like
was
it's
hit.
black or silver. Either way,
Here's
either
a
way.
solid line going down. And tracing that back. Yeah.
Find again.
That's a solid.
So it's
Okay, all right,
third
so-
one down?
Or is the uppermost? The top mount.
Okay, so.
But anyway. Yeah. So the dump valves that are shown in the video, they're on the back side here. They're back here behind this panel. There's two lines on the very bottom, and they're the ones that come into this bucket. So actually, you do have catalyst change. You have Cat A or Cat B
Yeah.
with solvent. So what we were seeing in that video does apply here. Now, you don't use it.
Yeah.
This one is plugged up, so you don't supply it to it, which means you always just use this catalyst. That's fine, but the advantage that you have with this setup is you actually have solvent on the catalyst side.
Yeah.
Typically, when you only have one catalyst, you just come straight into the meter with it, which means in order to get solvent through it, you have to change over your cat source to contain solvent to push it through it. So this is good to know. Ultimately, hopefully your B dump doesn't work or you don't use it unless maybe you're doing a zero. So are these off for a reason? No.
No, we'll never cut them off.
Okay, all right. So from the standpoint of what all's going on here with the easy key, for the most part, I guess you guys are familiar with this screen, and if you want, I'll step back so y'all can step in front of it and see. But this is typically the screen that you see when things are running normal. Or you'll notice that the bar will light up from A to the gun when the A dispenses, and then the B will light up.
You can hear it pop.
What is a fantastic troubleshooting tool, no matter what alarm you're getting, is if you will arrow to down to screen 2. This screen gives you live feedback. So
That's
under
where ours
the,
goes usually.
Yeah, that's all.
under the job column,
Yeah.
you'll see if A is dispensing, the value next to A will climb, and that gives you feedback that A, material's going through there. Secondly, the meter's picking it up and measuring it. So if you know you're getting paint and you're not getting meter pulses, what does that tell you? Your meter's stuck. Same holds true for B. So this is a really good picture of what's going on inside the machine and what it's seeing. Because typically when you're getting an alarm, it's related to either one of those two is not working properly. Now in the case of an overdose alarm, what you would see is your A plus B is going to be greater than 50, and that would be the cause of the alarm. Now, all of that stuff should be in multiples of 50 because every single time you get a dose, it's going to add it. But to me, whenever I get an alarm, I like to come here and see what's going on.
Sit with that and then.
Yeah. Okay. So from the next screen, which is 3, this is your beginning of the alarm history. Now the machine's only going to report to you the last, is it 10? So I can hit screen 3 twice. Yeah. So it's only going to give me the last, the 10 most,
10 alarms.
the 10 last alarms. It's
Last
storing a lot more than that. And when we can get that from it with the laptop, and I can show you all how to do it if you're interested. But what I want to drive home here is it's important to keep the date and the time set properly, because you can see the last alarm you got was on the 28th of January at 6:46 a.m. and it was A dose time. So does anybody have any thoughts on what A dose time was or is? was that a E20 something or other? Okay. That's all right. I'm gonna write that one
Pretty
down.
sure it was.
ADOS.
Whenever I saw the 20 versus the pot life, they're tied in that 20 and that what you say 2 is pot life. I noticed that on the screen up there.
Okay.
Because whenever I thought about it, I was like, well, okay, that you know, it's tied in. That's why it's showing 20 on pot life instead of 2. I mean,
Right.
because it was pretty much the same alarm.
Okay.
Almost.
Well, one of the first things that that sticks out to me the most is I look at the alarm. I had one at 10:30. It was an overdose A. It didn't happen again.
Yeah.
It's just a one-off.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me. If this thing said overdose A 4 times in a row within a minute or 2 of each other, now I know I got a problem I got to solve. Okay. But you had an alarm at 10:30. You didn't have another one until 12. Then you had one at 1:45, one at 1:53, 8 minutes apart, and they were separate alarms. None of these really bother me. This is standard run-of-the-mill stuff that you're going to see day to day. All the different tasks and challenges that you're going to have. That's pretty much normal. One of the things I do want to look at here is to get into the setup parameters, which is what the main thing I was showing you guys earlier. You have 2 different portions that you go into when you're programming this machine. You have recipe and advanced setup and system config. And I can project these back up for you. But system config I'm going to do first because this is one and done. This is English. This is units. Do I want cc's or gallons? For example, you guys have it set up for cc's and liters. Do you like that? Or would you rather have cc's and gallons?
CC is better for us.
Well, you're always going to have cc's,
And
but
we keep
cc's
track of
and
everything
liters
through that.
or cc's and gallons.
Well, we use
Ultimately,
liters, don't we?
just by pressing the button. Yeah, just by using the up and down keys, I can highlight the one that I want, and then I press enter, and I'll select that.
Oh, okay.
So next step in here, buzzer all alarms. So audible alarm for every single alarm. I can do that. I can say I only want to hear it when I have a pot life, or I can say I only want to hear it. I want to hear everything but pot life.
We
need to hear everything.
Shut the line down.
Fair enough.
We-
Fair enough.
we
I'm just
do all
explaining
along.
what you can go through here and set up and choose. So you've chosen all alarms, and that's fine. Screen timeout 5 minutes. So if nobody's pushed the button on the screen after 5 minutes, it goes black. Here's our date. Let's make sure. See, that's not right. So today is the 30th, but it's 11. So go on down, punch 11, and then hit enter to accept that value. And it's 11 on the nose. Well, okay.
We're gonna get one up here in a set
Oh man, yeah,
and
we can go
see
all.
if it,
We can go
see if
back.
it's set
It's
up
10
on all
o'clock
alarms.
actually.
Oh, yeah.
You're
I'm
on
the Eastern timer.
You're Eastern time.
Man, can't trust me. Let's see, let's come back up to this field. So now,
It's
you wanna
11
change
o'clock
to
somewhere.
10.
We gotta question everything now.
Enter, 0, 0, because it's 10 on the nose, or you can do 0, 1.
That's because he's East Coast.
Real
Yeah.
world.
Hit enter, see what it does. Now you got 10, 10. Hit 0 again,
Yep.
and now hit 1. Okay. And I don't really recommend you have to set the seconds if you don't want to.
That ain't gonna really.
Okay. But nonetheless, now it's right. It's 10 o'clock.
Go ahead and
So
set the
arrow
date.
on down, right? From here, you can choose how it reports the date with month, day, year, or you can choose day, month, year, any of those.
I'd rather keep it like that. It's
Okay.
more American.
All right, so hit down for the next screen. Hit the down arrow right there to go to screen 3. So run mode, manual. Don't mess with this because your only other option is automatic. And that's where the robot talks to it and does all the button pushing instead of you. You're not using that. The next option down is dump valve A. You use dump valve A. If you didn't want to, because like I said, we talked about that little slug, you could turn it off. And that's going to force all the flush to go through the guns, and you won't be running out this bucket anymore. So that's one of your options on silver. But to me, that's step 3. The first thing I want to do is change the color cat fill and color cat flush times. Start with that, and then go to the gun flush times per recipe. So at this point, dump valve B, you'll notice it's not optional. It's on all the time. And that is set by actually a dip switch on the circuit board, and it's all based on the fact that you have catalyst change. When you have catalyst change like you do, you have to have that dump valve on. You can't take that away. Not a big deal. I just want to explain why that says on and it's not an option.
Go down.
Yeah, go on down and you see third flush valve. There is an accessory option to where this particular valve, which is your air purge valve, they make a manifold block that has two of those. And you could have one that has air and the other one has solvent on it. By turning that on, it's going to change some of the screens, but I didn't forget about that, but that might be a way to flush that little cavity, that little neck with solvent. It's a possibility.
So just adding that extra one.
Yep. All right, so you can arrow on down and we'll go to the next screen. Dose time alarm.
40 seconds.
What this is referring to is, remember when I told you that when I tried to keep this in human terms, you and I have eyes and ears, 5 senses. This thing really only has 2. It has the meters and the airflow switch. So what the dose time mean is I hear the airflow switch. Am I dispensing? If the answer is no, how long do I hear the airflow switch without dispensing before I alarm? The whole point in that, and the point in making it adjustable is you're calling for paint and you're not getting it. These parts are going by and the machine's not dispensing paint. How many parts do you want to go by that you haven't painted before it alarms?
Not me.
So, well, that's my point. That's an adjustable value. 40 seconds may be high. You might want to change it to 5 or 10. I don't know, do your guns run air all the time, or do they trigger air and paint simultaneously? And they shut off between parts, or?
They should have clean.
Okay, all right. So you may want to consider shortening that time, and if you want, we'll come back to that in the class and go over it. I know that was a lot of information in a hurry, but basically it says, hey, I see your gun trigger's pulled, but I don't have any paint going out. How long before you want me to get mad?
So dose time alarm is how long it is before it alarms up.
When it sees air only, and there's no paint coming out like it's supposed to, I'll let that happen for 40 seconds before I'll alarm.
40 seconds.
Yep. And that will report back to you as your dose time A, dose time B.
Okay.
That 40 seconds is up and it hasn't seen catalyst or paint, resin.
Okay.
The next one down was dose size. And ultimately, that's the size of this chamber right here.
Oh, that's a tube.
Yep, that's your integrator. So depending on the size that you have, now they make I want to say a 25, a 10, a 25, and a 50. If you'll hit enter, you'll see the options. The other one, yeah, so you have...
And 100.
And 100. The top one is DD, that's for dynamic dose, and that's, you guys aren't doing that, so
Oh, we
I'm not
won't
gonna
have to
burden
worry
you,
about
you won't
that,
pick
right.
yet. But you could physically buy a different tube, install it on there, put it on there, and you need to change the program based on what you had. Number of guns is set to 1, maximum is 2, 1 is fine. And do you have a gun flush box? No, so it's off. And then you can arrow down to screen 5 one more time. These are just options that you guys haven't bought. So special outputs is an extra circuit board that can do some fun little functions if you wanted it to. You don't have a solvent monitor. If you wanted to connect this to your Ethernet network, Ethernet here, that would be the address.
IP address.
You can look it up on if you plug it into your Ethernet. And then right over to the right for options, use the right hand arrow. There you go. So in this case, you've got flush and fill input is global. And what that means is you only get one recipe value across all of them. So really and
that's for
truly,
all.
yeah, okay. This one we need to talk about, and this one we need to go over. Because when we do by recipe, if you'll hit the enter button, you'll see your options here are global or recipe. When I choose recipe, Now all of a sudden I have to go into every single recipe and choose all of the values. So before we choose that, we need to go into that screen and look at it and write down the values.
You wanna go into it?
Not right now. So no, just hit global's highlighted, so hit enter. All right, K-factor inputs global, that's fine. And then a minimum material fill volume is 0. I guess that's been a problem for you guys. Y'all are deciding when you got good mixed material and when you're ready to paint?
Yeah, just.
Okay, all right,
It
that's,
stays pretty much on.
all right, that's why it's 0, so that's fair enough. All right, so go down to screen 2. You don't have auto dump, don't have a flow rate monitor, and beat purge after chop. No. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's this screen that we're looking at right here, global versus recipe. This is some more classroom. We need to put some thought in it before we just change it. All right, so hit the right arrow one more time to go home. And now you can hit the down arrow to highlight recipe configuration or system. I went back. I'm sorry. Go highlight home.
Shit.
All right, that's fine. Hit your padlock again
But,
and leave it right there and hit enter.
mm,
All right, so this is what I was showing you the screens on in the room.
350, then 15?
Yeah, so the pot life volume was 350 cc's. My color cap purge is 15 seconds, so that means I'm running this top valve of solvent for 15 seconds down through this stack, through the outlet tube, across this fluid regulator, which the line comes back over here and into this meter, right?
Yeah. And then it goes down.
Down across this valve, which is closed, but because it has another hose port, which is right back here on the back, goes to the dump valve. That's the one that's open from the video, and that material shoots into that bucket there on the left. That's what's happening when I do a color catalyst purge. So I'm spending 15 seconds washing that entire channel out. Okay? When I get done with that 15 seconds, I'm only taking 5 seconds to refill it. Any thoughts on why 15 and 5 is such a huge, such a big difference?
15's cleaning out, isn't it?
Yes.
And then 5's just refilling.
Correct. What I really want to drive home here is the 5 seconds is important because that's all it's taking me to get the material right back to here. This is the only place that I need it. I don't need it back in the dump valve. I don't need it all the way in the bucket. Once I see that
You
the
just need to
material
get it
is
to
here,
where it goes.
correct. That's as far as I need to go.
That's
with
all
it.
that 5 seconds for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, it may actually take 6 or 7, but the reason why they're different is because I only need to go that far.
Oh,
I only need to get it to that point. Okay? All right, so let's go on down to the next screen. Here's where I was talking about first purge source is air. If you hit enter, you'll see the option that you can do air or solvent. And in effect, what that means is the first purge would be this side valve, this solvent valve, not the air side.
So it's that valve, right?
The one on the right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
This
one
is
right
solvent
here.
purge,
Okay. Solvent.
and the one opposite is the air purge.
Air purge.
This is your A dispense right here. This is your B dispense right here. Those are real similar to what we were seeing in the video.
Yeah, and yours.
So at this point, leave it alone, it's air. So it just means it's gonna use the valve on the left first. And then the chop type, your only option is air solvent. And then the final purge source is solvent. And then your chops are about a half second each. Like I said, just go for that. When the chop finally makes it after the air purge, you just want to see that steady, constant mist coming out of the guns. And if you need more or less solvent, just adjust the time in this particular screen.
so that's
Turn the solvent.
half a second.
Yeah.
Is what's up.
That's a good place to start. I'd have to see it run to determine whether or not it's there or not. But
Well, I mean,
that's where you'd adjust it.
that right there, we've had
We
it on
changed
that,
it last.
and it's
Yeah.
doing It's doing what it.
Sean says that a while back, but if we had to go up, or felt like we needed to, cause we still got
It's been shooting
some
it out,
paint
but-
in the line,
Yes, and we did change
while
that. Like,
it's still trying to purge.
Okay. And since then, I think that.
How high should we
That,
go? The
cause
high-
I've done flushed out
1
of it
second,
this morning.
1.5 seconds.
Well, every application is different. It's gonna depend on hose length, all kinds of things. What you're doing is you're looking for the result coming out of the gun, and like I said, you want that.
You want that
Yeah.
whistling?
Yeah. More often than not, I find the solvent chop is about twice as long as the air, because the air is under pressure, it's in a hurry, it's in a rush, and it'll pick up the solvent with it on the way. But if you're seeing, like I said, if you're seeing that constant steady mist coming out of the tip of the gun, then you're at where you need, you're where you need to be. All right, so come on down to screen 3 of 4. Now this is where you pick the times for each one. So you spend 40 seconds of air only at first, and after that 40 seconds, now you switch to the chop, which is only 18 seconds. That seems really short to me.
What, that shop time?
The chop time at 18 seconds. Yeah. And then the final purge is 40. Now remember, the goal of the final purge is to just get all the air out of the system. Once every single gun has a steady stream of solvent coming out of there, there's no point in going any further. So you do need to take a stopwatch and watch the guns and find out how long that time is. And typically when I'm first setting these up, I'll arbitrarily pick, say, 40 seconds all the way across the board, and I'll have myself a stopwatch, and I'll start it when I hit purge. And then as I visually see the things happen that I want to happen. So my first purge time is air only. As soon as I see the last gun quits shooting material, I'll tap the lap timer on my stopwatch. That tells me what my first purge time should be. Then it will begin its own process of the chop. Once that finally gets there, I'll usually hit the lap time when I think that the chop should be over. And then at this point, I'll put in my new time. So let's just say I learned that my first purge time really only needed to be 15 seconds. That's how long it took to push it all out. I'll reset my stopwatch and start over. And then I'll figure out how long I want on the chop. The last one, to me, one of the more important ones is the final purge time. Is once I get my first 2 steps done, I'll have it go into final purge. Once that process starts, I'll stop my stopwatch. And then as soon as I see all good solvent coming out of each gun, I'll hit the stopwatch and program that time into here. It'll be whatever it is. The goal of final purge is just to get it full of solvent and quit. All right? And then mixed fill time is what you picked. It's 30 seconds.
So basically, you're baselining your mixture. You're getting a baseline from it.
You're
Right,
talking
so-
about mixed fill or back to final purge?
When you set them all at 40,
Yeah, that's just to give me
Give
enough
my
time.
heads
Probably
up.
give me enough time for each
right?
to where I can trim them. Correct.
From that, correct.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
gives you your baseline.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you could determine your baseline from it. Yeah.
Correct.
And then, like I said, mixed fill time. That's how long the machine mixes A and B to the point to where every single gun has good mixed material coming out. And that's a decision you guys are making based on what you see, because your mixed fill volume is 0. It doesn't. It's not running to a certain volume. It's just running for 30 seconds. Now the reality is, the way the machine works is it runs the mixed fill for 30 seconds, and then it looks to the mixed fill volume and says, did I exceed that? And if the answer is no, it will alarm. And you'll get a mixed fill alarm. But because your value is 0, you're always above 0, and you never get that alarm. I know that was a lot of information in a little
Yeah.
bit, but
He's recording. He can
But you
send it to
did
me.
well, fair enough. But as you read through the manual and you start looking at the sequence of events, that's the important thing. That's where all these values come from and what they mean and what they're attributed to. So the challenge you guys have now is the fact that you're on global recipe instead of by recipe. Every single color lives off of these program values, and you need independent ones. And honest to goodness, you just have to take these one at a time and go through all these steps.
That's what we did.
So if you want to go through that today, I mean, let's do it. Let's get into it. Let's use the stopwatch, push the buttons, and go. I don't know what it takes. I don't know what it takes to get paint to come out of here and everything else. It may not be.
Want me to get Gabby?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's, well,
Well, it's hard to do it while they're cleaning.
fair enough.
Couldn't do it, we didn't work
We've
anyway.
actually, I mean, it's
Yeah, you
actually
can't-
worked pretty good so far.
Well, what I want to avoid is just being here and spilling all this information and sharing it all, and then we find out we don't have time to do it later. To answer your issues, Anthony, though, regarding having to repurge silver, etc., that's the only way to attack it. Is you've got to
Yeah.
get off global.
Yeah.
You've got to go by recipe.
Just go by recipe and
Yeah,
just see
and
what
then-
we really got.
Yes, and you're going to build one of these tables for every single recipe. And they're all going to be different, and that's going to be the best part, because if they're all the same, you wasted your time because you're already there.
So there's no, being that it's, you got global or every single recipe, so every single one.
We got
You
one
can't
recipe.
just do-
It's
yeah,
it's
I-
like cooking in your house
Yeah.
and you have salt and pepper
Yeah.
and nothing else.
Yeah, I got it. I mean, I was just saying, so
Yeah.
be best, just really keep it like we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's worked
Yeah.
fine so far.
But just remember it, because your video, and I want to grab it now. So from the system config, you would, I want to say it's this screen. There you go. It's not here. It's on options. Here it is.
So on options,
So on options, yeah, on the option screens, flush and fill is global, K factor is global. You'll want to change that to recipe and then hit enter.
and then set all your recipes individually.
Correct.
If you go to recipe off.
Correct.
If you go through the steps.
Right, and so what ultimately what's going to happen is when you make that change, when you come into this recipe screen, you'll notice recipe 1 only has 2 screens. It's the ratio. Wow, y'all run a 19.3 to 1?
That's what Sean put it at.
Well, that's what your paint supplier says.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
what that is.
All right. Yeah. So there's only 2 things that you can set up. Your ratio, its tolerance, which color valve is recipe 1, which catalyst valve is recipe 1, and then what's the pot life. When you change this to recipe, or from global to recipe, you're going to add all of these screens to each recipe.
And
So
adjust
you'll
them.
see
Yeah.
extra screens, and I'll show that to you. I'll show that to you on the screenshots on the board in there. But you're just gonna, instead of having 2 screens, you're gonna have 5 per recipe, and all this information will be in each one.
All right, got a question.
Yes, sir.
We're beginning to run more blacks
Okay.
than we used to.
Okay. How many blacks you got?
What, we got 3 right now?
3 for sure, I know of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Run. Okay. Want to take and set it up to where we can run all of them through here,
Let's see what you got.
through this pot. Yeah.
In
through
that
this
middle
here.
pot.
This is the one we run, our only black we got set up now through here.
Okay.
Want to set it up to where we run the other blacks through here.
Okay.
What's the math to figure out the ratio versus the percentage, like we mix it by hand on the catalyst to program that to add 2 more, 2 more.
Okay.
number
Let me catch up. I think you're 2 steps ahead of me. So number 1, you're hot potting it?
Yeah, it's coming through
You're
here.
mixing black and catalyst and putting it
No,
in
we're,
here?
no, we're not running. This runs through our ProMix.
Okay,
So it's
okay.
color 5.
Okay.
All right. Say we want to add another recipe for
Yes.
this spot.
Okay.
All right.
But 6.
To figure the math versus
And 7's a different.
ratio
That's what.
versus our
Right up here on 4, over here on.
percentage, like we mix it
Same as.
on here, we use a percentage basically instead of the ratio. I think.
Okay, so it's like
Yeah.
20%.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll look at those.
Yeah, and that way we
Yeah,
can
I'll
add
show you how to do
those, we
that.
can add those other 2.
Okay, I'll
It
show you how to do
is.
that math.
Yes.
Number we have.
Put it in.
Okay, so they're sharing the ratio as a percentage
Yeah.
versus 4-1.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta, give me a second, I'll be right back. I don't have to see where you're
Oh, what's this one? Is this a paint data sheet?
Film thickness.
That way we can run out of parts.
Mixture, air to
I mean,
gas.
that's like
What that
what I
means.
think too. I mean,
Well, that, less risk of
but
having
it's
two.
it'd be kinda hard to, because most of the black is like.
2K ratio, 3 to 1.
1.5 ratio, I mean.
Plate 2 is
And
19.6
then
to 1.
another one
We
would
can
be
set-
two.
Plate 3 is
we
4 to
can set it up
1.
in
Wonder why they're
here,
different.
It will change to get the ratio for us.
That's interesting. That's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to see where he was talking about a percentage ratio instead of 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1.
Instead of having them put catalyst in there and then.
We have-
make
When we run a,
too much and wasting that
it's a little thicker